Welcome to Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I'm continuing my reading and review of The Book of the Damned by Charles Fort. As always, you can find all episodes of the show along with links to social media, ways to listen, and ways to support the show at the website, which is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com. You can support the show either through Patreon for $1 a month to get all the extra content there, or you can also support the show through the merchandise store. Support is never expected, but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows. I forgot to say this last episode because, yeah, I'm all over the place. But please check out all the links to our friends of the show, Jen, the Arcane Observer, and who is also the co-host of the show, and Michael Strange of Troubled Minds Radio and the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And there you can hear replays of my show along with many other amazing shows. I knew there was something I was forgetting last episode, and I could not remember what it was. Anyway, so I think that takes care of everything this time anyway. And a few things I want to point out before I start these shows regarding the reading and review. There will be ideas and thoughts and words in this book, in this series, that come from Fort and not myself, that you all out there and or I may not agree with. So just be aware of that. These are not all my own words or thoughts. I'm reading from a book. Also, because I'm reading from a book, I will make mistakes in the words I say, and also in pronouncing words and names, especially since there are some words and names in other languages in this book. And this is not an audiobook, as you will notice or you will hear when I start reading. So this is a podcast, and there is not really any editing that I do on my part because I am kind of physically unable to. So anyway, not to get into all that, but just a lot easier to just let it go as a live stream and a recording of a live stream. So that's how we do things at this show. Let me get back to the document here. Thank you all for being here listening. I am in a weird mood lately, so I apologize for any rambling tonight. In the beginning there, let me find where I was at. Okay, got it. Continuing on, Fort says, of the three forms of symmetric objects that have or haven't fallen from the sky, I like that. He's sort of commenting on the ideas that other people have put out there, that these objects never fell from the sky. They were already there before. Or that they have fallen, as he's thinking that they may have. Anyway, he's sort of including both options there. It seems to me that the disc is the most striking. So far, in this respect, we have been at our worst. Possibly that's pretty bad, but lapstones are likely to be of considerable variety, there we go, of form, and something that is said to have fallen at some time, somewhere in the Dutch West Indies, is profoundly of the unchosen. Now we shall have something that is high up in the castes of the accursed. Comtus Rendus, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, 1887-182, that upon June 20th, 1887, in a violent storm, 2 months before the reported fall of the symmetric iron object of Brixton, a small stone had fallen from the sky at Tarbes, France. 13 millimeters in diameter, 5 millimeters thick, weight 2 grams. That's incredibly small, I believe. Reported to the French Academy by M. Sudre, professor of the Normal School, Tarbes. Not sure if I'm saying that right. This time, the old convenience there in the first place is too greatly resisted. The stone was covered with ice. Okay, so that explains maybe a little more about how it fell. This object had been cut and shaped by means similar to human hands and human mentality. It was a disc of worked stone. And it says the same thing basically here in French, which I do not speak or read, so I'm not going to try that. There's not a word as to any known whirlwind anywhere. Nothing of other objects or debris that fell at or near this date in France. The thing had fallen alone, but as mechanically as any part of a machine responds to its stimulus. The explanation appears in Countess Rendus that the stone had been raised by a whirlwind and then flung down. So even though there's no other reports of whirlwinds in the area anywhere near the time, it's attributed to the fall of this stone is still attributed to one. It may be that in the whole 19th century, no event more important than this occurred. In Nature, 1887, and in another scientific journal, 1887, this occurrence is noted. It is mentioned in one of the summer numbers of Nature, 1887. Passig, who I believe is another researcher, scientist, of course not a scientist, but anyway, another researcher, lists a paper upon it in the Meteorological Society of France over there, 1887. Not a word of discussion. Not a subsequent mention can I find. Our own expression. What matters is how we, the French Academy, or the Salvation Army, may explain. A disc of worked stone fell from the sky at Tarbes, France, June 20th, 1887. Oh, and that's the end of that chapter. So we are on chapter 9 now. So yeah, this has been good so far. Talking about all these stones and how they fall and how they're sort of written off in a lot of cases. So this next chapter starts by saying, by Fort saying, my own pseudo conclusion that we've been damned by giants sound asleep, or by great scientific principles and abstractions that cannot realize themselves. That little harlots have visited their caprices upon us. That clowns with buckets of water from which they pretend to cast thousands of good-sized fishes have anathematized us for laughing disrespectfully. Because, as with all clowns, underlying buffoonery is the desire to be taken seriously. That pale ignorances presiding over microscopes by which they cannot distinguish flesh from nostoc or fish's spawn or frog spawn have visited upon us their wan solemnities. We've been damned by corpses and skeletons and mummies which twitch and totter with pseudo-life derived from conveniences. Or there is only hypnosis. The accursed are those who admit they're the accursed. If we be more nearly real, we are reasons arraigned before a jury of dream phantasms. Of all meteorites in museums, very few were seen to fall. It is considered sufficient grounds for admission if specimens can't be accounted for in any way other than that they fell from the sky, as if in the haze of uncertainty that surrounds all things, or that is the essence of everything, or in the merging away of everything into something else. There could be anything that could be accounted for in only one way. The scientist and the theologian reason that if something can be accounted for in only one way, it is accounted for in that way, or logic would be logical if the conditions that it imposes, but of course does not insist upon, could anywhere be found in quasi-existence. I want to stop there. I think that's a good point that Fort makes there about meteorites. Even when they haven't fallen, they're still considered meteorites. Now, probably they are, but I think what he's talking about here is when objects are found and said to have fallen because they don't match the other objects that people usually see in an area, those people are written off as not knowing what they're talking about because these objects can't fall from the sky, and yet all meteorites are said to have fallen. So I didn't think that that's sort of what he's trying to get at there. And now I've lost my spot here, but I thought that was a good point and an important point. There we go, I found it. So wanted to bring that up. In our acceptance, logic, science, art, religion are in our existence premonitions of a coming awakening, like dawning awarenesses of surroundings in the mind of a dreamer. Any old chunk of metal that measures up to the standard of true meteoritic material is admitted by the museums. It may seem incredible that modern curators still have this delusion, but we suspect that the date on one's morning newspaper hasn't much to do with one's modernity all day long. In reading Fletcher's catalog, for instance, we learn that some of the best known meteorites were found in draining a field, found in making a road, turned up by the plow, occurs a dozen times. Someone fishing in Lake Okeechobee brought up an object in his fishing net. No meteorite had ever been seen to fall near it. The U.S. National Museum accepts it. So yeah, I hadn't read on, but that is what he's talking about there, is these objects that are found and presumed to have fallen, even though there's not necessarily a witnessed event that happened with these objects. If we have accepted only one of the data of untrue meteoritic material, one instance of carbonaceous matter, if it be too difficult to utter the word coal, we see that in this inclusion-exclusion, as in every other means of forming an opinion, false inclusions and false exclusions have been practiced by curators of museums. there is something of ultra pathos, of cosmic sadness, in this universal search for a standard, and in belief that one has been revealed by either inspiration or analysis, then the dogged, excuse me, clinging to a poor sham of a thing long after its insufficiency has been shown. A renewed hope and search for the special that can be true, or for something local that could also be universal. It's as if true meteoritic material were a rock of ages to some scientific men. They cling, but clingers cannot hold out welcoming arms. The only seemingly conclusive utterance or seemingly substantial thing to cling to is a product of dishonesty, ignorance, or fatigue. All scientists go back and back until they're worn out with the process, or until a mechanical reaction occurs. Then they move forward, as it were. Then they become dogmatic and take for bases positions that were only points of exhaustion. So chemistry divided and subdivided down to atoms. Then, in the essential insecurity of quasi-constructions, it built up a system which to everyone so obsessed by his own hypnosis that he is exempt to the chemist hypnosis is perceptibly enough an intellectual anemia built upon infinitesimal debilities. In Science, NS 31-298, E.D. Hovey of the American Museum of Natural History asserts or confesses that often have objects of material such as fossiliferous, fossiliferous, okay, limestone and slag been sent to him. He says that these things have been accompanied by assurances that they have been seen to fall on lawns, on roads, in front of houses. They are all excluded. They are not of true meteoritic material. They were on the ground in the first place. It is only by coincidence that lightning has struck, or that a real meteorite, which was unfindable, has struck near objects of slag and limestone. Mr. Hovey says that the list might be extended indefinitely. That's a tantalizing suggestion of some very interesting stuff. He says, in quotation marks, but it is not worthwhile, in quotation marks. I'd like to know what strange, damned, excommunicated things have been sent to him, or sent to museums by persons who have felt convinced that they had seen what they may have seen, strongly enough to risk ridicule, to make up bundles, go to express offices, and write letters. I accept that over the door of every museum into which such things enter is written, "Abandon hope." I do like that. He's wondering about what other objects are out there that have been shared, have been brought to the attention of establishments that even he hasn't ever heard about or read about. And because they've been sort of ridiculed, they've been dismissed, even though they have them, they may have them in their collections. They've been written off before anyone else would even hear about them. So in other words, they've been written off before any reports of these objects could ever even reach for it because of the radical factor. Something we talk about a lot on this show. In terms of modern experiences, and this is over 100 years old. This book that I'm reading here. So, going on here, if a Mr. Simmons mentions one instance of coal, or of slag, or cinders, said to have fallen from the sky, we are not, except by association with the carbonaceous, there we go, meteorites, strong in our impression that coal sometimes falls to this earth from coal-burning superconstructions up somewhere. Again, he's talking about, in a way, UFOs of objects, massive objects out in space, maybe near other planets, that may somehow have things fall or come out of them or off of them and land in Earth. Excuse me. In Comptus Rendus 91-197, M. Danbury tells the same story. Our acceptance, then, is that other curators could tell this same story. Then the phantomosity of our impression substantiates proportionally to its multiplicity. M. Daubrey says that often have strange, damned things been sent to the French Museum, accompanied by assurances that they had been seen to fall from the sky. Especially to our interest, he mentions coal and slag, excluded, buried, unnamed, and undated in science's potter's field. I do not say that the data of the damned should have the same rights as the data of the saved. That would be justice. That would be of the positive absolute. And though the ideal of a violation of the very essence of quasi-existence, wherein only to have the appearance of being is to express a preponderance of force, one way or another, or in equilibrium, or inconsistency, or injustice. So, that's where we're going to stop for this episode here, because we're just about out of time. So again, he's pointing out some of these differences in what is and what isn't accepted, and by different people, by everyone in their own ways. And I think that's an important point, and a good point, and we see that even today. It's funny, I talked about this a while ago on a show at some point. The idea of, and I'm probably going to always bring this up here and there, the idea of proof, that there is no proof of any kind of paranormal or anomalous event that will be accepted by everyone on this planet. And even going from one person to another, one person's idea of proof can change over time. So I think those are important things to keep reminding ourselves of as we go forward. Thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.